All right, guys, we are back again. You've kind of finished up with that peach color that we did. Now we are gonna switch brushes, put away that magenta brush, that's not what it is. A medium brush, and you're gonna grab your round brush. So round at the bottom, round at the top. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna grab just some yellow. That yellow we've got is really nice. Straight off the palette, don't need to change it a whole lot. If you want it to be a little brighter, you can add some white to it. I particularly like this color a lot, so I'm gonna let this one be just on the brush as is right off the palette. And similar to what we did with our leaves, we're just gonna start adding this in as accents as well. So you're just gonna come through a couple of leaves and just start adding it through. Once again, the more you have on your brush, the more you'll get a kind of distinct color. Otherwise, it will also start to kind of fade back through. You can use that to your advantage. You can definitely blend it back a little bit if you want to. You can make it a little more bold. You can accent kind of more towards the bottom if you want to as well. It depends on how you want your colors to lay. But you just want to continuously kind of add that accent. It's going to be a lot less. So as we continue, we've done a little bit less. We did the big bold flower petal that was red, then you add a little bit of the shadowing, then you add a little bit of the peach. Now we're going to add a little bit less with this one, so the accents will become a little bit more few and far between, and just kind of subtle. Subtle is probably the best thing for these ones. Kind of like that. That one is blending really nicely. I love that. So we're just going to add these really subtle little accents for some of these ones. Just letting that color start to engage a little bit more. Not necessarily everywhere, you don't have to touch every petal, just working that color in here and there. One of the things we're gonna be doing as well is getting back into that green and allowing some of that to come forward. So just remember that we will have some of that. You don't have to be too heavy-handed with this yellow right away. And then once you get that, we're gonna wash that brush out once you're finished with your yellow. Once again, if you're not there yet, don't worry about it. Feel free to pause and come back. What we're gonna do now is grab straight white, still on that round brush. And this is where we're gonna end up with a lot of this nice kind of highlight as well. And so you can work back in with them as well and get colors on top of this, but this will just be a quick highlight. You're just gonna kind of guide it along some of these edges. Maybe this one kind of where it hits and they are together. You can push that in there. It can blend in, it can also stand on its own. So depending on the petal, maybe it needs, like this one is nice and bold, but maybe this one needs to be a little bit more blended in to get that kind of pink to show through. Once again, working wet on wet really helps with this because you can push that color backwards by just going over it a couple of times. And so you can kind of continue doing that. We're gonna add highlight across the board on this. This really helps to pop this off the page. It really becomes more three-dimensional at this point. You get a lot of different shapes coming through. It can really enhance. I feel like this is one of the moments that you kind of feel your painting shine a little bit more. So just add in some. Once again, be confident, you're doing a great job. You just want to make sure that you give yourself that ability to play a little more and have fun with it. Once in here, this is a nice spot to kind of start dividing those petals around. So if you're seeing that like, oh, this one is still really blending into the rest, highlights really help to kind of pop them apart from one another. This one can have a little more accent over here. This one needs something, so I'm gonna add a little something there. Once again, as you're doing it, if you feel like, I don't know if I should do more, step back, take a couple feet back from your painting and really look at it that way. When we're working really close to something, sometimes it's hard to really tell what you want and if it is working or not. So take a minute, step back and get some distance. That'll help you kind of reevaluate and see where you're at. Around this guy. Once again, if you want it to tone back, you can just go over it a couple of times with that wet on wet technique, we're gonna get those colors coming through. And the more you kind of work into it and push that paint around, you'll get that blending happening naturally, and it won't be so kind of stark. Either way. Words are fine. If you were in studio, it'd be the same fumbling, so hopefully you're enjoying it. All right, so once you get that done, we'll take a little break again, let you kind of catch up and feel confident, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of start working back into that greenery a little bit more. This is where you kind of want to feel like your petals are starting to feel finished and like you're looking the way you want them to. And so if you need to, go back and like I said, you can take some of the other colors we've used, even starting with that initial just straight red magenta, and go right back in and work right on top. Wet on wet is great because it's just layering. And so you can continue to build up and feel out those colors and just kind of discover what works for you and what you like in those kind of moments. You can kind of pick out a couple of moments that are your favorite in it, and then you can mimic those kind of throughout in other spots. But we'll come back in just a second and do our kind of quick, almost our last step. So, all right.